If you've ever stayed silent to keep the peace, or if you have swallowed your truth because you were afraid you would lose someone, then this video is for you. I was the quiet one, the good girl, the fixer, and it nearly cost me everything. So today I want to share with you what it took me decades to learn so that maybe you don't have to wait so long or pay that price. This one is personal. It's about waking up in midlife and realizing the invisible toll of playing small, staying silent, and pleasing everyone but yourself. This is what I call shut up and put up. I'll walk you through what I've learned, not just about finding peace, but about reclaiming your identity after a lifetime of giving it away. I'm finally making peace with where I am. But let me take you back. 7 years ago, I sat in a lawyer's office signing divorce papers. He asked me a question that stopped me cold. How do you want to live? I had no answer. I had never even asked myself that. After all, I had a black belt in codependency, in making others comfortable, and never once advocated for myself. All I wanted was peace. Not more money, not more stuff, just peace. And yet, we women often hesitate to give ourselves permission to prioritize ourselves, especially if we've spent decades making space for others. Midlife is so often portrayed as a decline. A simple Google search will show you midlife crisis gets over 10 million results, while midlife opportunity barely reaches 10,000 hits. But midlife can be a turning point, a time to break old patterns and step into something new. For me, the reevaluation began in crisis. But it didn't have to end there. So how do you actually change? Like so many of us, I was taught that our worth comes from keeping the peace for others. We stepped into roles, we performed, we stayed quiet. I believed the worst thing I could do was disrupt someone else's comfort. But the real danger was abandoning my own. The stakes are high. What happens if you don't change? Well, you wake up at midlife, or in my case, at 60, still afraid to speak your truth, still defaulting to the good girl, and still playing the fixer, the quiet one. And it costs you everything. But here's the good news. You can change that story. Let's talk about the power of self-awareness. It starts with realizing you can't keep running on empty. It's about asking, what are my real needs? What patterns am I repeating? And who am I trying to please? And why? That is when I realized I was living by beliefs I never chose. Beliefs passed down through generations. So how do you actually become self-aware? Step 1, notice your thoughts. Be intentional. Your thoughts shape your feelings, and many of them aren't even true. Are you constantly bracing for the worst or lingering in the past? That was me. It still is sometimes. But when I started noticing those patterns, I could interrupt them and choose a different path. It was just a habit, and I had to break it. Then notice your feelings. Emotions are powerful, but they're often rooted in old wounds or outdated beliefs. Brene Brown's simple question changed my life. Yes, but is it true? That sentence helped me reframe, stop catastrophizing, and take back control. Then comes the big one, boundaries. Haha, that's something I talk about a lot because boundaries was something I knew nothing about. Remember, I had a black belt in codependency. So what happens? We lose our peace because we give up our boundaries. We think keeping others happy will keep things calm, but it only creates inner chaos. I had to revisit this over and over again. I will link a book in the description box that I read maybe 6 times before I finally got with the program. It's not an easy fix, but I was determined because I wanted my life to be happy. I had neglected myself for so long, I forgot who I was. And when you finally start to change, guess what? You get pushback. The people who benefited from your silence won't like that new voice. But that's where you get to stay calm, state it clearly. Here's what I'm working towards. I need your help, or at least your respect. Boundary busters are relentless, so keep at it. Here is where your inner work begins. However, to help you with this work, I created the Life Reinvention Kit. It's a 40-page ebook. It's a guide packed with action steps, affirmations, journal prompts, and real stories of women blooming in midlife and beyond. It took me 7 years to put it together. It's a roadmap of what I did, and it's just $7 because I want it to be accessible. The link below with a detailed preview is for you. Back to the inner work. Start by asking, what do I want to change? Pick one thing, not 5, not 10, just one. And this isn't about perfection. It's about reclaiming yourself. And that is a process. It's hard, but you can do it. After all you've been through in your life, this is a walk in the park. As long as you're determined and you love yourself enough to do this work. I mean, I get it. Sometimes I'd rather clean the entire house than sit with my feelings. But one thing that helped was journaling. It helped me return to parts of myself I had silenced for decades. You know, journaling, everybody talks about it, but you never really know how incredible it is until you've tried it. It's private. You take your thoughts from inside and you put them on a piece of paper and you're able to look at them more objectively. And the other wonderful thing about journaling is when you go back and look at the pages you wrote in the past, it shows you how much you've grown. It shows you that you've done the inner work. So try that. What happens if you don't do the inner work? Well, life will ask those questions for you. Through illness, through burnout, or that quiet ache of living a life that doesn't feel like yours. Self-awareness is the root of everything. It's the foundation of peace, and it's the way back to you. Here's what I learned in 30 years. Being nice and being authentic are not the same thing. Why? Because being nicer doesn't work, trying harder doesn't work, loving more doesn't work. All these things don't fix it. All it does, it silences your soul, and that isn't peace. That is pain. Healing starts with honesty, the kind that says, I'm tired of pretending. I'm ready to remember who I really am. You don't have to burn your life down to start over. You just have to start telling yourself the truth. And that's what we're doing here. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, what are you ready to stop putting up with? If you're on a journey of rediscovery, you're not alone. This is what this channel is all about. So, subscribe for more stories, tools, and support for midlife and beyond. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.